Hello, this is a quick tutorial on how to set up a fast and dirty PBR texture and save it to your asset library for later use. We'll be using Node Wrangler, so if you don't have that enabled, follow the card in the corner and I'll show you how to enable it. With a new scene open, you want to press A to select all, X to delete everything. Now Shift A to add a mesh plane. Zoom in, press Tab to go to edit mode, right click and subdivide. Now down here we want to change our number of cuts to 100. Tab back into object mode and over to the shading tab. Now I already have a HDRi set up, but if you don't, select World, Shift A in this bottom half, Texture, Environment Texture. Connect the color to surface and press Open. Now navigate to your HDRIs, select one, open image. Now in rendered view, this should give us our HDRI. I'll do a tutorial on how to find and install HDRIs. If you don't have one, don't worry. In rendered view, click on the drop down and deselect Scene World. And you can use one of Blender's defaults. Staying in rendered view, or if you prefer material preview, we'll go back to object, select your plane and press new. Now select your principal BSDF, and this is where Node Wrangler comes in. We want Shift, Control and T. This brings up the principal texture setup. And navigate to where you saved your materials. For this one I used textures.com, downloaded all of the maps and saved them somewhere I can find them easy. Now with the color or albedo, height, normal and roughness selected, select principled textured setup, and that brings everything in nice and connected to mapping and to your principled BSDF. To add the ambient occlusion, click on your top image texture node, Control Shift D to duplicate with connections to mapping. Click on the 2 to make it a single user and click Open. Using this method it should bring you to the folder you imported your other images from. Select your AO or Ambient Occlusion, or OC sometimes called. Open image. Now with Shift, Control and your right mouse button, click and drag between the two. This brings up a mixed node. We want this to be multiply to a factor of 0.25 and swap our ambient occlusion to the bottom node. If you want to change the label, press N to bring up this menu with it selected. Click on label and name it AO or ambient occlusion, whatever you like. It's totally optional. I don't usually bother for the sake of speed, but if you want to do it, there it is. If you're in cycles, you can come over to the Materials tab, scroll down to Settings, and in Surface, change Displacement to Displacement Only or Displacement and Bump, and it makes a mess. If we come down here to our Displacement node, we can change this. I usually start at 0.1 to make a more reasonable approximation and work my way from there. For this 0.01 seems to be pretty good. Scroll out, you can change your bump strength here as well. so we've got it set to both. Now we want to name our material. I usually use a variation of the file name. So for this one, pavement, stone, green, and it's 4K. Enter. Now, Control C to copy that. It saves you typing it in later. Control Shift S to save as, and save it to your assets library. Control V to paste, save as. If you don't have an asset library yet, you can go to Edit, Preferences, File Paths. Now down here under Asset Libraries, you can select a library. So make a new folder somewhere, name it something like Assets, and that's where you'll save your materials or models to import into your asset library. Now, because we saved it in our asset browser folder, we can come over here in the materials tab, right click on your material, mark as asset, and it should appear in your asset library. If you don't have an asset library here, click your drop down, asset browser. Now, because of where we saved it, it will appear in our user library under unassigned, and you can drag it and drop it into a category. If you make them, you can make them using the plus button, and it will always appear in your user library no matter what file you've got open. Control S to save. Thank you for watching my tutorial. Like, subscribe, comment. You know how YouTube works. Thank you.